Back in 2010, a website called Autocorrect started collecting screenshots of phones saying things their owners definitely didn't mean. There was no shortage of material.
Hi, this is Randy. I saw your p was for sale on Craigslist. Is it still available? I need to go to Home Depot to buy some I took for 2 hours today. Felt awesome. Is 3.25% homosexual milk okay?
What did he say?
Everyone just remembers autocorrect for the mistakes. What it doesn't remember is that every one of those mistakes happened because a phone was trying to do something much harder than it sounds. Figuring out what a human meant to say.
I'm having that bad. I seen some of these documentaries. I ain't believe none of that. Hey, the game government ain't no getting no one in the sample. No, give my 3D.
Man, shut your bitch ass up.
Now, despite appearances, this individual isn't hard to understand because he's retarded. He's hard to understand because his mouth is lagging behind his brain, which sounds ridiculous, but it's actually a problem we've run into before. Because the keyboard you type on every day exists for almost the exact same reason. Kinda. Back in the 1800s, the problem wasn't people typing too slowly. They were actually pretty cracked out at a keyboard, like they were genuinely cooking these typewriters, which back then meant around 30 Ws per M. But hey, they didn't exactly have looped mechanical switches and an anime girl wrist rest for the ultimate typing experience. You see, early typewriters didn't have keys connected to electronics. Each key was attached to a little metal arm that had to physically swing up and smack the paper. Now, if you type certain letter combinations too quickly, those arms would violently smash into each other, and now your typewriter is So this guy, Christopher Latham Schultz, had to figure something out. He spent years of his life tweaking the keyboard, just shifting keys around, figuring out what works. Bro was just in his workshop min-maxing the damn alphabet. Now, no one actually agrees on why every single key ended up where it did. Of course, our boy Chrissy spread certain letter combinations apart to make jams less common, but another says it was designed to help telegraph operators translate Morse code faster, which, sure, I guess. There's even a theory this typewriter company Remington liked it because once people learned this weird layout, they'd keep buying Remington typewriters, which I guess was kind of forward thinking because they were right about people getting used to the layout, but I guess they didn't see technology coming in like a bullet train. Whatever the reason, one of those experiments stuck, and for the past 150 years, QWERTY has been the standard. Eventually, typewriters faded away, offices filled up with computers instead, and honestly, everything was kinda chill. For a while, we stopped dealing with mechanical problems and started noticing how dog we were at spelling. Ironic thing is, computers made fixing mistakes easy, but that also meant people stopped giving a about getting it right the first time. Introducing spell check, that little red line that shows up under a word like it's personally disappointed in you. I swear, if your name was even a little bit ethnic, like if your wasn't Bob or John, that racist ass line would pull up and just deny your existence. All spell check did was compare what you typed against the dictionary, and anything that doesn't match gets flagged as dumbass. But that was enough at first, until we started shrinking everything. Then typing stopped being easy and became a problem big corpo would have to solve. Prehistoric phones just stuffed the entire alphabet onto 12 buttons and said, put those thumbs to work, bitch. Sending a text was genuinely like putting in a cheat code. You had to work for that shit. That's until a little something called T9. T9 was a predictive text system, and it was basically the first time phones started assuming shit. T9 was actually kinda sick for the time. Instead of pressing a key 3 times, you pressed each key once and the phone guessed the word from a built-in dictionary. But that dictionary was pretty rigid, so you'd just be spamming the next key looking for the most basic ass word. It was a very arthritis-inducing era of typing. So this next device tried to change the way we input text altogether. This is the Palm Pilot, a pocket-sized computer with a stylus. And the idea was simple. If typing is the problem, just don't type. Instead, you wrote directly on the screen, which sounds smart until you realize the machine could only understand your handwriting if you trained yourself to write in a specific dialect of hieroglyphics. So now, instead of spelling mistakes, you had writing mistakes. Honestly, the Palm Pilot was pretty based for the time, but inputting text was, how can I put this gently, dog. Now, the Palm Pilot did teach the industry something important. People weren't going to relearn how to communicate for the sake of a fancy new gadget. Enter BlackBerry. They looked at every other phone making you fight a number pad and basically said, what if we just gave those a full-size keyboard? It sounds obvious now, but it was exactly what people wanted. We'd spent over a century burning QWERTY into our brains. There was no chance we weren't learning that, so BlackBerry exploded. Not because the hardware was made by Samsung, but because for the first time, people were genuinely comfortable writing entire emails from their pocket. The things became so addictive, people literally started calling them crackberries. And once people started firing off messages all day, speed became everything. That's where autotext came in. It wasn't some genius AI. It wasn't trying to read your mind. mind, it was basically a giant cheat sheet. Mistype the, it fixes it. Type OMW, it expands it. Better yet, you could teach it your own shortcuts. Doctors filled it with medical jargon, teenagers filled it with hip 2000 slang like tiddle and lumfow. Some people even stored entire paragraphs behind just a few letters. The phone wasn't getting smarter, you were just teaching it how you communicated. For a while, this was peak mobile typing. Then Steve Jobs came along, looked at the BlackBerry, then looked at his boys, and just hit him with one of these. When Apple showed up, they did something that sounded completely mental. Deleting the keyboard was low-key an insane pitch. People genuinely thought it wouldn't work. Even the engineers building it weren't sure they could cook this shit up. Inside Apple, the touchscreen keyboard was literally nicknamed the science project. They had no idea if people could actually type on a sheet of glass. With a physical keyboard, your fingers do half the work. You can feel the keys, you know when you've missed one. Glass doesn't give a shit. Every tap is basically a trust fall. The team spent months building dozens of prototypes that just didn't work. They tried magnifying bubbles that followed your finger, they tried weird non-standard layouts, but all of it was a flop. That's until they came up with autocorrect. Now here's a little something you might not know. The original iPhone wasn't actually trying to correct your spelling, it was trying to correct your thumbs. The engineer behind it, Ken Kosienda, hope I'm saying that right, built a system by studying the words people use most often, which letters sit beside each other, and the mistakes people are most likely to make on a touchscreen. So if you type the letters next to the one you meant, the phone would basically go, hey yo, what the f***? I got you, my boy. That's a completely different problem from spell check. Spell check waits until you're finished typing, then tells you you're an idiot. Autocorrect has to make a split-second gamble while you're still typing, and sometimes it gambles like a Twitch streamer. Which brings us to Doc. For years, everyone thought iPhones were censoring swear words, and they were right. Apple literally built a list of profanity into the keyboard like a bunch of f***s, and told autocorrect to never help you type those words, because they decided accidentally texting your grandma f*** was worse than accidentally texting her doc. Honestly, fair enough. But that's also why an entire generation grew up saying things like, I'm so docking mad. The funniest part is, most of the time, autocorrect is actually right. You only notice it when it screws up. Hundreds of corrections happen every single day without you even realizing. Your brain ignores those. And that's the curse of autocorrect. It doesn't understand language or context. It definitely doesn't understand your relationship with grandma. It's just making the best guess it can in a couple hundred milliseconds, based entirely on the input of your chungus ass thumbs. The physical keyboard, on phones anyway, didn't die because it was bad. It died because we collectively decided that being fast is worth the price of being occasionally misunderstood. And honestly, we've been ducking with it ever since. Please subscribe.